What's up, my wizards? It's Deb from SBMTG down there on the YouTube.com. I like magic, and today I got something pretty exciting for you. It's the first day of PAX West, and Wizards has officially unveiled Kaladesh. We have like 5 cards to look at today on the PAX West floor, and there's also a couple of cards that we've known about for a couple of days, but we weren't sure the validity of. Looks like they're pretty real now, so I'm going to give you all 7 of the cards that we know of in Kaladesh so far. Let's start with Saheeli's Artistry. We've known about this card for the longest, but we weren't totally sure it's real. It's looking more real by the day. This is 6 mana, that's 4 generic and 2 blue for a sorcery. Choose one or both. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact, or create a token that's a copy of target creature, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. And what this looks like to me is a potential Planeswalker pack rare. We know that Wizards is replacing intro packs with Planeswalker packs, which will have a Planeswalker and a few rares relevant to said Planeswalker. And this definitely looks like it could be a rare in those Planeswalker packs. You know, which is to say that it's sort of like an intro rare, which is to say that it doesn't look amazing. Now, there are situations where this could lead to some good value if you copy a couple of things and the total cost of those things is worth more than 6 mana. That's good value right there, but I just think that it's actually more narrow than it appears at first, especially, again, for 6 mana. That's an awful lot of mana, so I'm just really not sure how much play this is going to actually see, at least in Standard. Maybe Commander players might like something like this, which I will say a couple of times today. Here's a good example right here. This is Inventor's Fair. It's a legendary land with, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more artifacts, you gain 1 life. You can also tap it to add a colorless to your mana pool, or you can pay 4, tap it, and sacrifice it to search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Now, you can only do this if you control 3 or more artifacts. Well, again, my first thought here is Commander. I feel like EDH players will seriously love this, but as far as Standard goes, it really depends on how far we go with this artifact theme. We now know the artifact theme is pretty serious, and it looks like they might go off the deep end with it. We're not totally sure yet. If they do, that makes this card almost certainly Standard playable, because tutoring is a really, really powerful effect. Tutoring is always very good. And to that end, it could almost maybe possibly see Modern play, although I'm not sure Affinity wants to pay 4 mana, but Affinity will have the 3 artifacts. Maybe Tron, maybe possibly Tron will want to do this, who knows. I can see this having implications in multiple formats, is all I'm saying. I'm not too sure about Standard, but again, EDH players are probably like, whoa! Moving on though, next card, this is Propeller Pioneer. He's 4 mana, that's 3 generic and a white, for a 2/1 human artificer with flying, and a new ability appears. This is Fabricate 1. When this creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. You know, I really like Fabricate a lot. Like, I think this ability has a lot of potential, and it's possible it could go one of 2 ways here. You know, it could either be strictly limited, fades into the background of limited like Support did, you know, Renown a few blocks ago. I could see that happening, or I could see there being maybe 1 or possibly 2 aggressively costed cards with Fabricate that actually have potential for higher level play. It could happen because this is a good ability. I like the choice on it. You either get a big creature or you get a couple of creatures, or maybe more. You know, Fabricate 2 or 3, you get more servos. That would be cool, depending on what we see. Again, so I just really like cards that you play them, you know, you play a creature and you get more than 1 creature. I like, you know, Thopter Engineer, Whirler Rogue, all the stuff that does that. Hornet Queen, there's like a million. Siege Gang Commander, there's a bunch of cards that do that. Eyeless Watcher, I keep going, you know, Brood Monitor, whatever. There's a lot of cards like that, and mostly they're pretty good. So I can't wait to see what this ability does in Standard. But as far as the card specifically here, this is definitely a standout limited common. As far as limited goes, I think this is really, really playable, and I love that it's at the common level, but it won't make it out of that format. Next is Furious Reprisal, some burn here. This is also 4 mana, that's 3 generic and a red for a sorcery. With Furious Reprisal, deals 2 damage to each of 2 target creatures and or players. I'll be honest with you, not a huge fan, again, outside of limited at least. In limited, this is a pretty good uncommon. You know, it can 2 for 1 the opponent sometimes, and that seems really, really good, definitely. You can also just kill one of their guys, hit them in the face for 2, so pretty flexible in limited formats, but I am not seeing this in Standard at all. I don't think we're supposed to see it in Standard either. The sorcery speed really kills it, although I'm not really sure it would be playable at instant speed. 4 mana is an awful lot. An awful lot. If you can 2 for 1 them, it's good. But as far as from what I'm seeing at least, strictly limited play. This costs a lot of mana for what it does. Let's take another look at a new mechanic here. This is Oval Chase Dragster. It's 4 mana for a vehicle, an artifact vehicle, but it's a 6/1 with trample and haste. And it has, here's the new ability, Crew 1. Tap any number of creatures you control with total power 1 or more, and this vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn, meaning it can obviously attack. Or block, obviously, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this mechanic just in sort of a knee-jerk kind of way. My knee-jerk reaction is that I'm not a fan, mostly for dumb reasons. You know, I don't have any sort of mechanical reasons why I don't like it. I just kind of don't want cars in my Magic. You know, so there's no actual, you know, gameplay reason why I'm not a huge fan of this. It looks decent, again, especially in limited formats. Looks fine. I like that it's not a creature yet until you make it a creature, which I'm pretty sure means that they can't like bolt it or deal like 1 damage to it to kill it, you know, until you actually make it a creature, which is, that's kind of good. You know, that's not bad. But at the same time, I'm not really seeing any play outside of limited for this, although limited play is very likely. And we'll have to see how crazy these cards get. There's probably going to be a card with like Crew 3 or 4 or something like that, or maybe even Crew way up there, Crew 8, 9. You know, tap all your whole team and something insane happens. I could see that. There's a lot of potential for the ability. I just, again, what are cards doing in my Magic? Here's the card I may be most excited about all day. This is Aetherworks Marvel, and it's either jank or amazing. It's 4 mana for a legendary artifact, and whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard, you get a funky symbol, which means an energy counter. Now, you can pay, you can tap it and then pay 6 energy counters to look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a card from among them without paying its mana cost, but the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And yes, you do have to remove the energy counters when you tap it to use its ability. The card looks pretty good to me, honestly. It could, again, it could be jank or it could be amazing. All depends on what we see here, but the card at least has promise. And again, I'll say this, could be really, really good in Commander. I think the card could be very well received in Commander. But I do like the cut of its jib, and in a deck that wants to sacrifice a bunch of creatures or permanents really, really fast for low cost, this card looks very, very nice. It digs a good ways into the deck and it allows you to cast any card that you find for absolutely free. That could be really, really sick, you know, depending on what options we see. And we've already got some options at really, really high mana costs in Standard. So don't think the card is bad. If we can find a deck that sacrifices things for very cheap and very quickly, you know, we can do it all in one turn, then this card could actually be seriously real. And I like that, let's say, you know, you play it on turn 4 and you go ahead and somehow get all those energy counters on it that same turn. You can go ahead and tap it and play something for free the same turn you play it. You know, there's no energy, there's no mana costs associated with activating it. So that seems pretty good too. All depends on what happens here, but I do think the card shows an awful lot of promise. A new card has appeared, actually. I was only planning on doing the 7 cards that we knew about when I started recording this video, but they have just uploaded a brand new spoiler here that I haven't seen yet. And actually, this is the first time I'm reading it right here on camera, so this is literally the freshest reaction you could possibly get. This right here is Gonti, Lord of Luxury. It's 4 mana, that's 2 generic and 2 black, for a 2/3 legendary Aetherborn Rogue with Death Touch. When Gonti, Lord of Luxury, enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down, and then put the rest on the bottom of that library in a random order. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may look at it, you may cast it, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast it. Huh. This looks interesting, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to form an opinion on it, to be honest with you, or really think about the broader implications of it in different formats or anything. It is legendary, so maybe Commander players, I don't know. But in Standard, I think that 4 mana for a 2/3 Death Touch is really steep, but that enter the battlefield ability is really, really nice. And I like that you can like flicker it. That seems cool. And you can flicker it and still keep the card that you exiled first in exile. It's as long as that card remains exiled. That's pretty cool. So there are definitely implications, but is 4 mana too much? Is it, you know, it's boltable. It doesn't pass the bolt test in some formats. That's bad. So I'm sort of lukewarm on it, just from the first pass. Now, it is cool that we can look through our opponent's deck, and I love that they've gone through hoops here to make sure that we can play the card. You can spend mana of any color to cast it. That's pretty cool. So you'll almost always get either a second spell or maybe another creature off of this guy that you can then cast. But you can't really build around him too much because you're never sure what you're going to be playing against. You know, cards that rely on what your opponent has in their deck are historically not all they're made out to be. Those cards see a lot of hype, but then don't end up being great, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm like 40% on this. You know, I'm a little cold. To be honest with you, I'm not seeing it being amazing, but I do think that it's a quirky ability that could be good. It all depends. Now, we're digging a good little bit into their deck, and we can get removal from them. We can get a good creature out of them. So this could be good. Don't get me wrong. I could be very, very wrong on my initial impression here, but cold is my first impression. But that ability is something. That ability is something, but I'm not sure if it's enough. He kind of looks like the guy from Dishonored, too. Like, that's, you know what I'm talking about, the mask and everything. That's the other thing that I thought about first. Let's talk about the last card of the day that got spoiled and the card that everyone's talking about. This is Saheeli. Rye, of course, she's 3 mana for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. That's not bad. It's a generic, a blue and a red. And pretty much everyone speculated she'd be red and blue. Pretty much everyone was right. You can +1 her to scry 1, and then Saheeli Rye deals 1 damage to each opponent. You can -2 and create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature that you control, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. That token gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of your next end step, or the next end step. -7, that's her ultimate. Search your library for up to 3 artifact cards with different names, put them onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Now, I'm going to be upfront with you, and I know this might not be a popular opinion. To be honest, I just got off work, saw these while I was at work, formed some opinions on them, came home, dug a little bit deeper on them, and immediately started recording. So I haven't really seen much community reaction to these cards, including Saheeli Rye. I'm not sure if people like her or not, but my honest opinion is that I don't think she's amazing. Just off the first impression here. I've done some thinking about her today, and I'm not totally sure that she's great. And this could actually, Saheeli Rye could be in the Planeswalker packs. Although I'm pretty sure those are monocolored, so she would be right out in that case. But they said that the Planeswalker pack Planeswalkers are going to be slightly underpowered. And so that's just my way of saying this looks slightly underpowered to me. She has no way of really protecting herself. Yeah, she can make a token, a copy of a creature, but you have to already control a creature. That kind of sucks. And it doesn't stick around to block for her on your opponent's turn. That really sucks. Although, you know, it could be geared for Commander. This could definitely be geared for Commander. Again, another good Commander card, but I just don't know about Standard, man. I like that it says each opponent on the +1. Again, Commander, that's a thing. The -2, you know, again, could be totally geared for Commander. There's probably crazy combos there. And she's got a restriction on the ultimate that they have to be different names, but that especially seems good. Not only for Commander, but for multiple formats. I really, really like the ultimate on her. I love that she puts them right into play, you know. But I really hate that there's no actual card advantage on the card, and she has no real way of protecting herself. So she fails 2 of the big tests for, you know, is this Planeswalker good? So I'm just not sure. And some people are saying, you know, second turn Storm Chaser Mage, third turn Saheeli, fourth turn you go ahead and -2 her, copying Storm Chaser Mage, and you use your 4 mana to cast spells and finish the game, you know. And that's a possibility. It's not Christmas Land or anything, but I'm not even really seeing that, to be honest with you. The card has to fit somewhere, you know. We've got a lot of this set to see, but in a vacuum, I'm just not a huge fan. Sorry. That's all the cards from today, at least so far. You know, they just sprung one on us a second ago, so there may be more today. So stay tuned, you know, and sub if you're new. If you've never seen my ugly mug before, you know, sub if you're new, because we're going to be doing all the Kaladesh spoilers, which pretty much start today. As far as I'm concerned, Kaladesh comes out in less than a month. We've got to get these spoilers out. And there's going to be a bunch of content other than that, too. The top 10 rotating cards and how they warp the format. I'm going to do a top 5 cards that get better upon rotation. Also, the one I'm really excited about, I'm going to do 5 pauper ideas for Standard, which is to say 5 deck ideas that use nothing but commons, all of them standard legal. So really excited about that. And our next deck tech, which I may put out right alongside this video here, is red-green werewolves. And we're going to do that competitive. The other day, somebody was in the comments was like, red-green werewolves is going to be SBMTG's Half-Life 3. And that was just like, that really woke me up. I was like, man, I really should put out red-green werewolves if people think it's if it's gotten to that level. So Red Green Werewolf's coming out very, very soon. Stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys later. Comment and let me know how you felt about all of these. Sub if you're new, and like the content if you like the content. That's really, really helps. So just take a second and hit thumbs up, and I will see you guys later. I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.